Hey, what's up everyone? It's Justin from Precision Camera and Video, and today we're at House Park in Austin, Texas. It's a skate and BMX park, and we're actually going to put the EOS R5 to the test and see how it stacks up. If you haven't seen our last video, make sure to check it out, but we're going to do a little recap of the specs that we put in our last one. So the R5 is going to have a full frame 45 megapixel sensor. It's going to take advantage of the dual pixel autofocus 2. It's going to use the Digic X processor that we saw in our 1DX Mark III. Another thing that we have on the EOS R5 is we're going to have an electronic mode dial. And on the back, we're going to have a brand new 8-way multi-function control. Now that's going to be used for the menus or setting autofocusing points. We're going to have 3 control dials on the camera body. We're going to have one for ISO, one for shutter, and then our back wheel is actually going to be able to control our aperture. So really handy if you're out shooting so you don't have to dive into any menus, or even, just pressing a button on the back to pull up a sub menu. It's real fast and convenient for the shooter. Now the EOS R5 along with the EOS R6 is the first set of Canon cameras to have in-body stabilization. Now that is going to be fully mechanical. We're not going to be having any crop on our sensor to achieve stabilization. But speaking of stabilization, you have 2 modes that you can set it to. If you want to add some extra stabilization, it'll do a slight crop when doing video, and you can actually even further that and do more of a crop to get more stabilization out of that. And when you pair it with a lens that has stabilization, I mean, you don't even need a gimbal anymore for most shots. You can handheld this for the most part. Now let's talk about media. The EOS R5 is going to come with 1 CF Express card slot as our slot number 1, and our slot number 2 is going to come with a UHS-2 SD card slot. Now with everything that the camera is packing internally, I personally would have liked to see 2 CF Express card slots in there. Now let's talk about some of the construction of the EOS R5. So it is made with a magnesium alloy exterior. It's going to share the same weather sealing that's something of a 5D Mark IV, and its shutter is rated for about 500,000 shots. Now we are going to get a fully articulate screen as well that is fully touch functional, and you can actually pull autofocus points by just touching the back of the screen. Our EVF is going to have 5.6 million dots. Now out of the box it is going to have 60 frames per second inside the EVF. But if you're doing like sports or fast action moving subjects, you can actually program it to display at 120 frames per second in the EVF. Now the EOS R5 is extremely fast. It's going to have 1,053 autofocusing zones that are covering almost 100% of the sensor. Now when I'm shooting with the mechanical shutter, I have 12 frames per second, but if I turn it to an electronic shutter, I can actually get up to 20 frames per second. Now let's talk about some of the video specs. So the EOS R5 is known for being a small, compact camera, but it actually has an 8K resolution sensor internally. We're actually able to shoot 4K 60 and 4K up to 120 frames per second. Now it can shoot 8K RAW. So since the R5 has been released, a lot of people have been talking about its overheating issues. So I do want to touch up on some of the video specs as well. So when I'm shooting 8K, I'm going to have a max record limit of 20 minutes. When I'm shooting 4K 60, it's going to be 25 minutes, and for everything else is going to be 30 minutes. Now we're shooting in Austin, Texas. It is 100 degrees out right now. So that is really going to give us an idea of overheating. Now, can I feel the camera heating up in my hand? Yes. We've only been out here for probably an hour and a half. And then for my other clips downtown, also another hour and a half. So I wasn't shooting on end, but the camera didn't shut off, but definitely can feel it heating up. And I can see that being an issue for some people in the future if they're planning to be shooting with this all day, shooting in 8K. Another thing for video shooters is your EOS R5 also does have time code. You are also going to have Canon C-Log installed. Now, just a quick note about some ports. We are actually going to have a mic input, we're going to have a headphone input, USB-C, and then instead of them putting the same mini HDMI that we put on our 5D Mark IV, we're actually going to change it to a micro HDMI on the EOS R5. All right, so now that we finished shooting here at House Park with all the skaters, final thoughts. What did I think of the EOS R5? Overall, I was really impressed with it. I can tell it's going to have a little bit of overheating issues, but once again, to state, I'm here in 100-degree weather in Texas. It is very hot, and we're shooting 8K files in a very small body. If you compare it to other cameras that can shoot up to that resolution, They're gonna be a lot larger bodies. We're gonna have fans inside them, heat sinks. So really happy with the EOS R5 overall. I was shooting some stuff downtown. I think it was handling the low light sunset stuff just fine. And then here I was actually able to test the high frame rates and shoot at 20 frames per second and actually test the auto focusing, and I think it handled it just nicely. Other than that, the EOS R5 is coming out at the end of July, and it's gonna retail for $38.99 is what it's gonna retail for. So if you're interested in picking one up, make sure you pre-order at the link down below and make sure to support Precision Camera and Video. Other than that, let me know what you think about the EOS R5. If you're definitely gonna add this to your kit, working in sales at Precision, I'm seeing a lot of pre-orders come in already. So other than that, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you on our next video.